This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Another great and important show. It is indeed a very important show. Late-breaking developments last Thursday. I was on a plane watching TV on JetBlue, jetting to God knows where, not on a UFO, but you would have thought that I was in outer space, when the news broke that our Attorney General, Bill Barr, let James Comey go. Let him go. You see, I've been predicting this all along. The reason for this was that he was offering something back. This was a peace offering because the rabid Democrats in the House of Representatives and in the Senate and elsewhere want to take his head off for not indicting the president over obstruction of justice, as contained in the Mueller report. This is predictable. It's what I've been saying. It's why you need a Freedom Watch. It's why you need a Larry Klayman. I'm the only lawyer who does what I do. I just don't get documents like the group which I founded, Judicial Watch, back in 1994, July 29th, 1994. Of course, this week, Fitton gave the impression that he was the founder. He wasn't the founder. He wasn't even with Judicial Watch at that time. The reality is that Freedom Watch is what Judicial Watch used to be, hard-hitting lawsuits, citizens' grand juries. And now we see why it's so important, why you need to go to freedomwatchusa.org and join our Justice League. You are the superheroes. You are Batman. You are Wonder Woman. You are the Flash. You are Aquaman. We need to rise up and do it for ourselves, because now, and don't say I told you so, because I don't take any satisfaction in this, but I've been saying it from day one. The Justice Department will protect its own. This is proof positive. The number one target of what went on in terms of trying to bring the president down, Donald J. Trump, was one James Comey. He's the one who triggered the special counsel Mueller's investigation. He knew all about the Steele dossier. He knew all about Fusion GPS. He was head of the FBI when the phony Steele dossier was put to the FISA court, which is worthless, which is a rubber stamp for the political establishment in Washington, D.C. They should be held accountable as well, and we're going to be doing that at Freedom Watch. But now we see the lay of the land. And let's say it very simply, because I'm going to say it again in a column which is coming out just Friday, and you can read it at freedomwatchusa.org and at WND.com. I'm also going to blast it out. I'm going to boost it on Facebook. I'm going to get it out far and wide. But this was so predictable. The Justice Department, our so-called Department of Justice, which is the Department of Injustice, is the Department of cover-up when it comes to their own. In particular, we've seen it with the Bundys, covering up the gross prosecutorial misconduct, then taking an appeal under the Trump Justice Department, under Bill Barr. Yes, he did the president a favor. He kept Mueller from indicting him. He effectively ended the Mueller investigation, but now it's shifted over to the House of Representatives, the vile Gerald Adler, the vile Adam Schiff, the vile Maxine Waters, the rest of them. And it's continuing, and it's going to get louder and louder, because what Barr did in not indicting Comey for taking classified materials, including confidential memos of his conversations with the president over General Mike Flynn and perhaps other things, and then leaking that to the media for his own benefit to trigger the special counsel witch hunt of the president and people around the president, and others, such as my client, Dr. Jerome Corsi, who just got dragged into this thing. Fortunately, he wasn't indicted thanks to our legal efforts. But Comey was at the core of it. Comey's at the apex. He's at the top. He's the number one person that needs to be held accountable. He's the person that needed to be indicted. He's the person that needed to be squeezed. He's the person to show the country and the world that we actually have a system of justice. But we don't. We have a system of injustice. And what Barr did, let me repeat it again, it's very clear. He's under attack for ending the Mueller investigation. He's under attack for not giving the go-ahead to indict the president for alleged destruction of justice over Russian collusion. So what does he do? It's like a human sacrifice. He offers back the good health of James Comey to the Democrats, to the rabid left. This is to keep the monkey off of his back, because in the end, he's being threatened with impeachment. He's being threatened with contempt, not just civil, but criminal contempt by the House of Representatives who are going to court to hold him in contempt. He protected himself, and by doing that, he sold out the American people. But I predicted it. I knew it would happen. He certainly has been somewhat better than Jeff Sessions by a long shot, but this is all he did, and it's all he will do. So don't expect former Deputy Attorney Rod Rosenstein. Do not expect the Lovebirds, Strzok and Page. Do not expect Andrew McCabe. Do not expect Bruce Orr, former head of the criminal division. Do not expect Obama and his intelligence jars, Brennan and Clapper. God forbid they would be held accountable, because they've got so much dirt on everybody in Washington, D.C. There's no way that's going to happen, the establishment there, including likely Barr and judges and everything else. And don't expect Obama and the Clintons to be held accountable. The past is a prologue. So now you see that what I've said is true. Read that column that I'm writing for WND.com this weekend, and you'll see that exactly what I said is true. And this is why you need Freedom Watch. It's why you need Larry Klayman. That's fine. Get documents, hang them on your wall, Tom Fitton, put them up there with pictures of yourself in tight shirts for whatever reason. You sent these pictures out all over the internet. People can judge for themselves why Fitton's doing that, but it's bizarre. But you need a hard-hitting group that really is laying it on the line for the American people, who is the American people's Department of Justice. Now, just last night, as I said, when I was coming back on the plane, I knew the news because I had read the press releases and these articles in all the publications that Attorney General Bill Barr had taken a dive, like a prize fighter. He took a dive to save his own skin so they won't blow back on him. He offered this up, just like the Taliban killed 30 special ops forces in Extortion 17, some of our clients, as an offering up for the death of bin Laden. This was intentionally done by Barr to say to the Democrats, don't harm me, I just protected one of your own. And this is going no further. This is just a charade. So I'm watching TV on the plane, on JetBlue, and there's Sean Hannity as usual, okay, doing his usual monologue, his 10 to 15 minute monologue that he repeats every single day, saying the same thing with the same guests to follow. And who comes on? But Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. More documents, great, more documents. Here they are. John Solomon, who I like, but John gets dragged along with this as well. Sarah Carter, who's become, frankly, a joke on there. I mean, was smiling at every new scandal. I mean, the woman has no credibility at all, predicting great things. But even yesterday, they were kowtowed. But Hannity, he soldiered on because he doesn't want to lose his viewership. He doesn't want to lose the advertising dollars. He wants to keep drawing listeners back for ratings. So he says, well, I don't think this is a big deal that Barr didn't indict Comey. I've got sources that say they're going after bigger fish. Well, what bigger fish is Sean talking about? Is he fishing right now? Is he looking for whales? Is he looking for other fish? No, there are no other fish other than Comey, okay? So he's predicting that something's going to happen in the future. He has sources. But you know what? Interestingly enough, even Fitton came back and said, what are you talking about, Sean? I mean, he actually took him on. And Fitton, in this instance, in this one instance, is absolutely right, is that this is a litmus test for what's not going to happen in the future. So, Tom, put your documents away, okay? And join Freedom Watch in actually bringing hard-hitting cases. Bring cases that actually have clients, where you have the proverbial knife at the throat of the establishment. I mean that figuratively, not actually. Where you're seeking justice, not just getting documents to get yourself on Sean Hannity, because Hannity is totally discredited at this point. Anybody who watches that has to say, why am I watching this garbage? Why is this guy trying to deceive me even more? Let's get down to the reality. You know, our founding fathers had to know the facts of life about King George III to risk their lives, to pledge their honor and their fortunes, to fight a war, the Revolutionary War, to create a new nation under God. They had to know the facts of life. They didn't want to listen to the Tories, you know, the colonialists that wanted to keep going along with King George. I mean, that's in effect what Hannity's doing. Let's just follow King George into our destruction here. Our King George, this mythical Attorney General, William Barr, and others out there in the Republican establishment, in the Senate and in the House, they aren't going to do squat. Excuse the French there, okay? Because if it wasn't for the French in the Revolutionary War, we wouldn't have won. We didn't have a Navy. At Yorktown, they took care of the British Navy. Well, you know what? We have a Navy now. It's the American people. The American people need to rise up. You need to join our Justice League at freedomwatchusa.org. We're going to be doing citizens' grand juries down the line. Bob Barr is going to join me, the courageous congressman who, with me, impeached Bill Clinton and others, who the only one I could ever trust up there. You know, I like Mark Meadows. I like Jim Jacobson and others up there. But you know what? They don't have the power to do anything. Okay? They can only hope. And I know that Mark Meadows is a sincere man, is relying upon Attorney General Bill Barr to do something. Well, he's not going to do it. We now know the way this thing works. Business as usual. So, you know, turn off Hannity. I'll tell you something. Turn off Hannity. Call up our website. Turn off Mark Levin. Turn off the rest of them, okay? Because you know what? It's a waste of time. And I like Mark. He's smart. But it's over, guys. It's over. It's time now to do something. It's time now for the American people to rise up peacefully and legally. So join our citizens' grand juries. We're going to be holding all of them accountable. Comey now is our next target. He will be indicted this fall. We will try him. We will try Mueller. We will try Rosenstein, the McCabe's, the intelligence czars. I'll be right back with Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Fearless.
Disclaimer, he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
You don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Let me tell you what Freedom Watch and Larry Klayman are doing. We have lawsuits. I was in court last week for Sheriff Joe Arpaio against the CNN, Jeff Zucker, Mario Cuomo. Yeah, Mario Cuomo. Chris Cuomo, his son, his half-wit son. The Huffington Post and Rolling Stone for defaming Arpaio as a felon. I was in court just last week for Judge Roy Moore in the Southern District of New York, who was defamed by Sacha Baron Cohen, called a pedophile, when if anyone is a pedophile, it's not certainly my client. And one has to question, you know, the sexual behavior of Sacha Baron Cohen. I don't know that he's a pedophile, but I'll tell you something. The guy is weird. I mean, in a general sense, he's weird. Laura Loomer, who's suing Facebook for removing her, as well as Twitter and others for her political speech. Our antitrust case against all the social media companies to break them up and hold them accountable for, in fact, excluding conservative content. The families of Extortion 17 and Benghazi, who were left behind by our corrupt government, where there's no justice for their sons. Cases against the intelligence agencies for the mass illegal surveillance. Cases for Dallas police officer who's going to join us in the second segment, and another Dallas police officer, the first one being Demerick Pennie, who sued Farrakhan, Sharpton, and the rest for their racism and bigotry and killing cops in Dallas. And the father of a brave policeman, Patrick Zamaripa, who died in the massacre a few years ago at the hands of a disciple of Louis Farrakhan after violence was incited by Black Lives Matter, the new Black Panthers Party, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and others against cops. This is just a little bit of what we do. You got to go to freedomwatchusa.org and larryklayman.com to see what I'm doing in a public interest capacity and my private capacity. You need to support Cliven Bundy and his sons, where their dismissal of the indictment is currently on appeal, and we have a brief due later this month. It's very expensive. That's ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org, ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org. You You need to support the CourcyLegalDefenseFund.com. CourcyLegalDefenseFund.com. You see, contrary to our worthless Attorney General who protects himself and leaves the American people in the lurch, in the dry, is that Dr. Corsi has brought a case against Mueller for violations of constitutional rights. He was the key witness in the indictment of Mueller that we got just about a month and a half ago. And he testified, and he will testify at Mueller's trial, where we will convict him, where we will sentence him, and we will seek to mete out the sentence peacefully and legally. I've talked about that before. See what it is we're doing. We have enough documents. I've got all the evidence. The evidence is there. I don't need any more documents, Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch. What we need is justice. What we need is a strong Freedom Watch, your Justice Department, and others to join us, like Bob Barr is joining us in the citizens' grand juries. We need to move forward. We need not to think about backward. We don't need to write epitaphs. We don't need to write more books. Yes, I do try to educate the American people to rise up to a second American Revolution. Because as Thomas Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there's liberty. We need to push back peacefully and legally. You know what? I've stopped watching Fox News. I can't do it. Watch Sinclair. Watch One America News. You know, listen to me on the radio show. Spread the word around. I've started watching the Golf Channel. You know, when I was in high school and at Duke, I was a scratch golfer. I was a really good golfer. You know, I had to give it up because I became a lawyer. That consumes all of my time. But I've started to watch the Golf Channel again because at least there's winners and losers. And at least there's some skill involved. And these people are true to what they believe in, which is they love the game of golf and they want to win. But what you're dealing here with our government justice system and people like Attorney General Bill Barr and others, is they're just losers. I don't want to watch losers. I'd rather watch the Golf Channel. So I don't know if you like golf. There's also a tennis channel on Sinclair Broadcasting with their local stations and such. I would go watch that, frankly. But turn Hannity off because, you know, it just makes you want to throw up. Or Jeanine Pirro, for that matter. Same thing. I mean, look, these people say the right things, but it's to boost ratings. It's to bring in the advertising dollars. Fox isn't even run anymore by – Ailes had his problems, and I've sued, you know, Fox over his sexual harassment of Laurie Loon. But, you know, at least he was an ideologue. These people that run Fox now, they're leftists, and you can see Fox moving to the left. So share this radio show each week. Get the word out. Join our Justice League at freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to the Clive and Bundy Defense Fund.org, to the Corsi Legal Defense Fund.com. This is expensive because we are now your Justice Department. I'm going to be right back with the brave policeman Demerick Pennie, Sergeant of the Dallas Police Force, to talk about what's been going on in persecuting policemen all over the country.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, yours truly. I've got a true American hero on the phone. His name is Demerick Pennie. He's my friend, my colleague. He's my client. He's a very, very brave police officer from Dallas, Texas, a sergeant for that matter. He has a doctorate degree. I'll let him explain that. He's running for the U.S. Congress in a district in Dallas and around that area, and I personally endorse him because we need brave people like this. Other people talk. Demerick Pennie acts. And years ago, we brought a lawsuit after the Dallas massacre of several police officers by a disciple of Louis Farrakhan, who was egged on not just by Farrakhan just days before the massacre, but by Black Lives Matter, by the new Black Panther Party, by Al Sharpton, by Jesse Jackson. They incited violence. And we sued everybody. We didn't sue Jackson then, but we sued everybody else. And the case was dismissed by a very politicized judge. Interestingly enough, an African-American judge. I think they were worried that he would be retaliated against by the name of Judge Lindsey. But I also then brought a lawsuit for the father of a slain police officer named Patrick Zamarripa, a very fine Latino police officer, and his father brought the suit, Enrique, as next of kin. And that case is going through the courts right now. It was very similar to Demerick's case, but Demerick's been involved every step of the way. We have cases against Antifa for Chiara Robles. This is how I met Chiara, was through Demerick. He's been very active. And, there are people out there that talk, but Demerick put his neck on the line. And when he did, he was threatened. They threatened him. They threatened his family. He was called Uncle Tom. He was called a House N. He continues to be threatened. He's extremely brave, and he is a true hero and patriot. He's a revolutionary that's trying to change this country. Now, recently, we see that this group, probably Soros-funded, has been hacking into the algorithms of police officers around the country and saying that they're racist. These are private accounts, and trying to get them fired. This is part of this Black Lives Matter movement. It's part of the new Black Panthers movement. There are people who aren't African American who are behind this. Obviously, Soros, a self-hating Jew who collaborated with the Nazis in World War II, confiscating the property of his fellow Jews, going to the gas chamber. He's probably behind it. So, this is the vile, rabid left, okay? It's comprised of all kinds of groups, rabid groups, extremist groups. They want to destroy the country. They want to disarm the police. They want to take the country over. Frankly, I believe by force. You can see what Antifa is doing. You can see what happened to the policemen in New York City just a few weeks ago, the disrespect that was being paid. So I want to get Demerick's take on it. I want him to tell us what's been going on in that regard in cities all around the country, whether it's Philadelphia or Boston or wherever. And I want him to explain why he's running for Congress and why it's so important that people like Demerick be in Congress and how you can support him in that effort. Demerick, welcome to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Thank you for having me on, Larry, and it's always great to hear a true patriot like you step out in front of all this and try to bring about some real change. The reason that I have to address this issue with this Plainview project, and I don't know how many of your viewers have actually followed it, but basically what you have is an online hacking group with no real origins, no legitimacy as an organization, that has basically scared law enforcement agencies across the country into submission by making them believe that their police are somehow involved in some nefarious and racist hate groups inside of their organization. They're making them believe that they have these these racist officers among their ranks, and they don't know who they are. And just by happenstance, they were able to get online, get information, and find those racist officers. That's what they've done. But you have a lot of different issues that are wrapped up into this. And I don't want to talk too far above your readers, your viewers, but I do want to let you guys know that there is an underlying angle here. And I just want to give you just the real base out this that they're trying to make. And a couple of issues that we have to look at. First of all, is text on social media, is that speech? One of the problems I've had with that is, and when I brought my first lawsuit against Black Lives Matter, Facebook, Google, and Twitter, when I tried to address those issues before, they've always used the fact that because it was online, that couldn't necessarily be used as speech because you didn't know who was sending the messages. And as we well know, Facebook is the most hacked social media platform online right now anyway. But what you've had is you have this Plainview project, a project that came out of nowhere, that supposedly have these noble causes to expose the radicalized police within the ranks of these police departments. So what they've done is they hacked into the API of Facebook, and they got all these officers' names in their posts, and then they sent them to the agencies. The agencies, being afraid that they're going to be condemned or deemed as a racist police department, then turns around and puts the police officers on administrative leave or terminates the officers because they don't want to deal with it. Now, I can tell you, patriots that there's a real issue with this. Because historically, without getting into all the different court cases, historically, the courts have not been on the side of public servants as it relates to free speech. Okay? There's a one particular case that I like to bring to your attention, which is the Pickering test, the Pickering-Connick test. And in Pickering, basically what it said is that it involved a teacher that basically wrote something that she ended up being fired for. And in that Pickering case, it said that as long as it was a matter of public concern, that she had a right to say it. And that was in 1986. But you turn around in 2006, the Garcetti versus Sabello's case came up. And in that case, it was about officers that complained about how a search warrant was issued. And that officer was fired. Well, that latter case, the 2006 case, the court said that because you're a public servant, you no longer have a right to free speech if the interest of the employers outweighs the right of you being in your off-duty capacity. So basically what we have is, if you're on duty, they have full control of how you act, and they should have full control of how you act when you're on duty. But when you're off duty, they're saying that they still have control of how you act if you're a police officer, and you simply have no rights as a person because they say that you as a police officer, as a public servant, you have to be held to a higher standard. Now, all I want to say is that's a dangerous precedent to be setting, because police, by the nature of the job itself, speak in different terms than the average person. Officers that deal with murder and crime every day, all day long, they talk a different way. So the average viewer listening to an officer talking inside of a private page, every officer inside of that private page would know what they're saying. But the average viewer that will come in and get inside of this, they'll look at these certain words, and they'll say, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. These officers are hurting people.
Well, here's the thing, Demerick. And let me put it in layman's terms, or shall we say Clayman's terms, okay? First of all, the plan here of the Plainview Project, ultra-left, okay, they're hacking into illegally Facebook accounts of police officers in their private capacity. So that's a crime number one in and of themselves. But rather than prosecuting people for these crimes, the mayors of these cities and the police commissioners are running scared. They're running for the exits. Many of them are up for re-election. So rather than getting to the bottom of it, they react precipitously, quickly, and they fire tens, if not hundreds, of police officers without even due process. Or they sanction them in a way that destroys their career, so they can't even testify in court anymore because defense lawyers are now going to say, well, did you make this comment? Similar to, and I'm not condoning what happened in the O.J. Simpson case, with police officers using improper language. But it takes them out of their role as the protectors of the American people. And in my view, what the left is trying to do is to disarm the police so they then can go in and wreak their havoc in cities like Ferguson, Baltimore, elsewhere, and wage their revolution in the streets and have the police just sit around doing nothing to the extent there's anybody left to do anything. So I see this in a bigger context. I also see it in the context that there are Muslim police officers, there are African-American police officers, the gay, lesbian, and transgender police officers. And frankly, thus far, I haven't seen any of them held accountable. There's a dual standard here, okay, except for, people like yourself who stick their neck out and get retaliated against, generally speaking, because you've gone against the tide, like I go against the Jewish left. It's the Jewish left that tries to destroy me primarily. I'm a Jewish Christian. So, but for the fact that you're pushing back, these minority groups, cops, they're not disciplined, okay, but it's the female and male white cop primarily that winds up taking the hit here, except for, people like yourself. So that's my take on it. And it shows you, frankly, just how out of whack and how dangerous our current situation is when we try to destroy the police. And I might add one other thing, is that you and fellow cops are in a pressure cooker. You know, you are dealing with the dregs of society, people who, when you walk down the street, patrolling the street, could kill you in any moment. You're dealing with potential terrorism. You're dealing with radicals like Antifa. And I know that there have been some cops that have simply posted pictures of Antifa attacking cops in the Northwest who are now in the process of being disciplined just for posting that Facebook post. And mayors who see this, who are up for re-election, will throw the policemen under the bus, people like de Blasio in New York, for instance, to save their own skin, or in de Blasio's case, because he's running for president. So this is the way I see it. And you are there on the front lines. And tell us why it is that you have now decided to run for Congress in addition to fighting the wars as a current police officer. And I might add, these police officers now have their pensions on the lines, their livelihoods. Many of them put in, 20, 30 years. And, everything they've done is now up for grabs because the political establishment is throwing them under the bus. But tell us why you're running for Congress.
Yes, sir. Just real quick before we go too far, I do want to address the fact that this problem is bigger than most people see. This problem has to do with Facebook, Google, and Twitter as social media platforms. More specifically, Facebook. And Larry, I really like for you to be able to look at this because Facebook has essentially allowed these third-party hackers to get into their platform to use this information to attack police officers. So Facebook, by their failure to manage their own platform, has facilitated this entire debacle. And I think that there are some for them as well. Look at that. The reason I've decided to run for U.S. Congress, and I'm running for U.S. Congress, Texas District 30. I'm under Pennie. Pennie is my nickname. Most people in the district know me as Trey. I'm running for U.S. Congress in that district because there are a lot of problems in that district. There are a lot of problems that have been overlooked and mismanaged because of the democratically held leaders that have been over that district. More specifically, I want to run for Congress because I have to bring the country back to some level of normalcy. I have a lot of beliefs that I believe that now we are in an idealistic war. I believe that you have certain people that are trying to undermine the legitimacy of this country. And we got to have individuals that are ready to fight to maintain the normalcy of what we are and what we were founded upon.
Demerick, we're going to be back a couple minutes in the last verdict segment. I want you to explain running for Congress, then I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be right back with Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Back with the verdict. The Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We're going to wrap it up with this verdict that Attorney General Bill Barr is just like the rest, and we need to do it for ourselves. But Demerick is doing it for himself and for us in running for Congress. We need people like that in the Congress, not the yellow-bellied fools that we currently have. So, Demerick, tell people where they can contact you, where they can contribute to your cause, to your campaign, because we need Demerick Pennies in the Congress.
Absolutely. You can go to pennieforcongress.com. So PENNIE forcongress.com. You can learn everything about me. You can learn everything I'm fighting for. More specifically, I'm going to address this attack on conservative speech in this country. I'm going to address all these issues that we've been fighting for the last couple of years to address, and we can't get any of these leaders in Congress to get behind. So we're going to do it ourselves, and that's why I'm running.
And that's exactly why you're my client, why you're my friend, why you are a patriot. Now, let me wrap this thing up, Demerick, and listen to what I have to say, and everybody listen to what I have to say, because it's very important. And please share this with your friends, your family, others out there. Get it out far and wide. This is a clarion call. I'm not Paul Revere. I'm Larry Klayman. But here's what needs to be done. We don't need us, in the words of Thomas Paine, sunshine patriots. We need people now to take up peaceful and legal arms. We don't have a Justice Department. We now see what I've been saying all along. Attorney General Bill Barr only went so far. He's not going to hold accountable the powerful and the elite in Washington and elsewhere throughout this country. James Comey was at the very top of who should have been prosecuted, triggering this witch hunt against the president, collaborating with Christopher Steele with Fusion GPS, starting a phony Russian collusion investigation. Now he is let off scot-free. So let everybody know that what I've been saying is correct. Let everybody know that it's not enough to get documents like Judicial Watch and Fitton does, to do what I used to do at Judicial Watch, to join Freedom Watch and go to freedomwatchusa.org, to support people like Demerick Pennie, to support my clients, other clients, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Roy Moore, Laura Loomer, the whole rest of them. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and join our Justice League. We are your only hope for justice, and I hope others will join us. And I hope that other groups will join us too, just like Bob Barr is joining us with the citizens' grand juries that will hold Comey accountable. We will indict him. We will convict him. We'll seek to sentence him, and we'll seek to peacefully and legally mete out that sentence. But what's going on today is a full court press by the left. And the right sits there with their hands tied behind their back with people like Attorney General Bill Barr, playing games with the American people. Or Sean Hannity, who tells you something's going to happen every night with the same people and the same monologue. Yes, there'll be justice. I've got sources. You know the sources that he has? That's the balance sheet of Fox News. The balance sheet that these raking in money hand over fist, promising things that aren't going to happen. It's a fraud. Plain and simply, it's a fraud. Let's see things for what they are, just like our colonialists did in 1776, that we need to rise up. They didn't listen to the Tories in the colonies. They didn't listen to the fact everything's going to be okay. It's great. King George III is going to come around. You know what? Attorney General Bill Barr is not coming around. We just saw that today. And we saw that the people that work under him, like John Durham, are supposed to be doing an investigation of all that went on in the witch hunt. Forget about that. We'll get a report. That'll be good. Put it on the shelf of your library. But there won't be a library anymore because this country's going down. And there's the last straw, the left, the rabid left, is trying to destroy law enforcement, trying to take them down so they can go to the streets and take this country over forcefully. And we've seen that that's happening, whether it's Antifa or other groups, Black Lives Matter, New Black Panthers Party, white groups, other groups. This is what we're dealing with. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Join our Justice League. As I've said many times, you are the superheroes. You are the people that need to listen to our call to legal and peaceful arms. We need to rise up like we did in 1776. We need to take our country back. We need to rid the country peacefully and legally of this rat-infested bunch of leftists. And yes, that's what they are. And they're infecting the body politic of this country. Time is now. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, go for a long walk, reflect as to where this country's going, because this week was confirmation that you cannot depend on our compromised and corrupt Justice Department to do it for the American people. God bless you, God bless the country, and God save the country. And I'll see you next week.
As a small business owner, you deserve more. More confidence, more connectivity, more of the tools that help your business thrive. And at Cox Business, you can expect more from us. We don't just have sales reps. We have perfect plan identifiers, people who will work with you to make sure your business gets everything it needs and nothing that it doesn't. Your business deserves more, and that's why you can expect more from Cox Business. Call 800-526-8572 to switch today.